the secret marriage of Radha and Krishna, and it takes place in the forest of Bandiravan. This story is a compilation of stories told by Shivaram Swami in Venu Gita and Dinabandhu Das in Braj Lila. Like the exquisite bodily hue of the Prince of Vraj, the clouds of Vrindavan are a deep blackish blue and very pleasing to look at. During the rainy season, the clouds take special pleasure in reminding the inhabitants of Vrindavan of the beloved son of Nanda Maharaj by covering the sky with the same color as Krishna's complexion, showering down a nectarian rain of mercy and manifesting many peacock feather-like rainbows. From the clouds' vantage point, they gain a spectacular vision of Sri Krishna's pastimes, which are shared amongst each other with the birds and with the sun. The low rumbling sound heard in the evenings are the happy discussion of the clouds' recent visions of Govinda's pastimes. One cloudy evening, the sun set in disappointment. The clouds had prevented the sun from having darshan of Krishna's pastime that day. To encourage the sun to rise the following morning, a magnanimous cloud began to narrate a Lila recently seen on the banks of the Jamuna River. A special cloud, which shared many of the characteristics of Shyamasundar, began the Krishna Katha. The moon rose early to secure a place in the assembly of listeners. The peacocks, who were avid admirers of the deep resonance of the cloud's voice, heard the clouds say, Nanda Maharaj had such great love for Sri Krishna that he could not bear a moment's separation from him. While herding the cows, Nanda Maharaj would take his child Krishna with him. Holding him in his arms, he would gaze into Krishna's beautiful face and be overwhelmed with joy. The cloud continued his narration. One day, the king of the cowherds visited Bandiravan forest, which is dear to the yogis and whose darshan saves one from repeated birth and death. Walking by the shore of the Jamuna, Nanda Maharaj allowed his cows to graze on the luscious grass as he delighted in showing Krishna the wonderful creatures and plants of the forest. At that time, Krishna, although playing the role of a small child, was the self-sufficient supreme controller, and he ordered many ominous dark storm clouds laden with wind and rain to fill the sky. Strong winds blew and spread a great carpet of ripe and unripe fruit everywhere. Blinding the cows, forest creatures, and Maharaj Nanda, the frightened child Krishna began to cry. Nanda Maharaj became afraid for the welfare of his son, and being far from the shelter of his village and home, he simply prayed to the Supreme Lord Narayan for protection. Immediately, a golden effulgence surrounded Nanda Maharaj from all directions, and the king of Gokula saw Sri Radhika standing before him in her Kishori form, dressed in blue garments, decorated with many ornaments and defeating the beauty of many goddesses of fortune. For the sake of this pastime, the child, Radha, had been transformed into her teenage Kishori form, and she approached Nanda Maharaj. Bowing before the supreme energy of the Lord with folded hands, Nanda Maharaj said, O goddess, you are the first beloved of Lord Hari. I take shelter of you. Please protect us. Smiling charmingly, Sri Radha stretched out her arms to take Krishna from Nanda, who said, O Devi, please take your Lord, for he is frightened by the dark clouds, the wind, and the thunder. While I herd the cows back to my village, I request you, please take my son home to his mother. So be it, Radha replied. She took the child from Nanda's arms and, holding him affectionately to her chest, started on the path through Bandiravan forest back to Gokula. When they arrived at a beautiful forest grove which was protected from the elements, filled with the sweetness of spring and decorated with scented garlands, the small child Krishna suddenly transformed into the wonderful Kishore, a young, enchanting teenager, splendid as a dark cloud, dressed in yellow garments and holding a flute. Admiring each other's enchanting features with sidelong glances and concealing smiles, Kishore Kishori stood in that grove like a newly formed cloud and its first flash of lightning. Lord Brahma suddenly appeared in the sky, riding his swan carrier. Bowing down before Kishore Kishori, he spoke, "Dear Krishna Chandra, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Radha, you are his eternal consort. I take shelter of your lotus feet. You are appearing in this world to exhibit your eternal pastimes, and I desire to perform your marriage ceremony so that ignorant people, misunderstanding your conjugal love, will not commit offenses and bring ruination upon themselves." Smiling, lotus-eyed Sri Krishna accepted and took his beloved by the arm and went to the wedding pavilion, which had manifested under the Bandiravat tree. The pavilion was divinely decorated with kusha grass, water pots sitting on unhusked rice with mango leaves, and a coconut on top. And you will see that right on Radharani's left side. There were silken flags with gold and silver borders and elaborately embroidered colorful canopies with pearls hanging beneath the branches of the grand banyan tree. Seeing the beautiful form of Kishore Kishori, everyone was ecstatic and began to mystically appear there. The Astasakis came, and immediately Lalita and Vishaka began to dress and decorate Radha as the bride-to-be. All of the demigods arrived. Lord Brahma began to chant mantras. The demigods were offering auspicious Sanskrit prayers, singing, dancing, and playing many musical instruments. Radharani was magnificently decorated with many beautiful forest flowers, and she and Krishna shone like a dark cloud and lightning while conversing sweetly with each other and Lord Brahma. In the presence of many demigods and forest creatures, Brahma gracefully performed the wedding ceremony of the divine couple. Radhika very timidly placed her lotus hand on Sri Hari's chest, and Sri Krishna happily lay his hand on Sri Radhika's back. With her eyes downcast and emanating a blue radiance, she placed a lotus garland surrounded with humming bees around Sri Krishna's conch-like neck. Similarly, Sri Krishna playfully placed a forest garland upon his bride's shoulders. They bowed before the sacred fire, which was cheerful to be purified by their presence. Krishna sat with Radha on his right side in the yajna. Brahma chanted mantras, Krishna poured ghee, and Radha gently threw grains in the sacrificial fire. Lalita and Vishaka tied Krishna's chadar to Radha's veil, keeping auspicious items within the knot. Lalita gave her lord a golden ring, and with that ring, Shyamasundar placed red sindoor in Radha's part. Brahma instructed the divine couple to stand and exchange places, with Radha now standing on Krishna's left side. Like a father entrusting his dear daughter to the groom's care, Lord Brahma placed Radha's hand in Krishna's. Again and again, the demigods sounded many musical instruments and called out, Jai, Jai. These auspicious sounds were mixed with the rumbles of thunder. Brahma bowed his heads to the divine couple, and they blessed him by placing their lotus feet on his heads. Lord Brahma's innermost desires having been fulfilled, he mounted his carrier and, accompanied by the demigods and their wives, left that place. Kishore Kishori remained there alone, because even the forest animals reluctantly left that place due to the will of Yogamaya. Then Radha, who's been cooking since time immemorial without ever cooking the same preparation twice, cooked a wonderful feast. With her own lotus hand, she fed that extraordinary feast to her beloved, Sri Krishna. After feeding her Lord to his full satisfaction, she sat and joyfully honored the remnants. After eating many kinds of foodstuff prepared by Sri Radha, Shama Sundar walked with his new bride through the beautiful Bandiravan forest, gazing at the Yamuna, the flowering vines and the magnificent trees bowing before them. Playing hide and seek among the groves, Radhika and Madhava pleased each other by their sweetness, kindness, and mutual love. When they reached a very secluded grove with sand like shining jewels, they performed the rasa dance as the thundering clouds kept time to the tap-tap of their lotus feet and the jinny-jinny of their ankle bells. The forest animals came to watch, and even the peacocks, who are famous for their dancing, folded up their tail feathers and came to watch the magnificent dancing of Radha and Shyam. Sri Krishna decorated Radha with many flowers and beautiful jewels. He drew wonderful designs with colored minerals from the banks of the Yamuna on Radha's lovely face. As soon as Radha touched the minerals to adorn Krishna's face in the same way, he suddenly transformed back into a small child again, abandoning his teenage form and crying in fear of the thunder. Radha began to cry, "Oh, my beloved, why do you show me this illusion now? Where have you gone?" A voice from the sky, as deep as thunder, said, "Oh, dear Radha, do not lament, for in time all your desires will be fulfilled." Hearing this, Radha composed herself and taking the child in her arms, quickly returned to the home of Raja's queen. The cloud, who was narrating the story, said, "What happened when Radha entered the palace of Nanda and Yasoda, we did not see. However, a chataka bird who was sitting on the window ledge informed us that Sri Radha, who had entered the palace in the guise of Lord Narayan's effulgent eternal potency, and handed the child Krishna to Yasoda and said, 'Your husband gave me your fearful son on the path which leads to your village. I entrust him now back to your care.' Mother Yasoda happily clasped Krishna to her chest and said to Radha, 'My pranams to you, O Devi, O energy of the Lord.' Radha returned home and again transformed back into her childlike form and lay in her small bed in Vrishabhanu's palace. Under the influence of Yogamaya, she forgot all that had happened and, exhausted, fell asleep. When the peacocks heard the wonderful story from the clouds, they looked to the sky and cried, "Ki ka, ki ka, ki Radha, ka Krishna." They continued to sing and dance very exuberantly, glorifying the marriage ceremony of Radha and Krishna. The sound of the peacocks was so tumultuous that both Mother Yasoda and Mother Kirtida One was in Gokula and the other in Raval, hearing the noise of the peacocks, entered the bedrooms of their children to ensure they were sleeping undisturbed. With motherly affection, they leaned over their children and saw beautiful smiles on their faces, and comforted by their children's serenity, returned to their duties. Undisturbed by the kirtan of the peacocks, they were sleeping in their own little beds in different parts of Vrindavan. The child Radha and the child Krishna dreamt of their marriage ceremony in great transcendental happiness. Jai Shri Shri Radhe Shyam.